The Zephyrian research vessel, Gentle Current, drifted silently through the void, its bioluminescent hull panels flickering weakly as power systems struggled to maintain basic life support. Captain Thylex's 4 eyes darted nervously between the failing displays, his translucent skin shifting to deeper shades of blue, a clear sign of distress among his people. "Engineering Officer Vex, report," Thylex commanded, his voice carrying the musical tones typical of Zephyrian speech. Vex's delicate fingers danced over the organic control interface, coaxing responses from systems that seemed determined to die. "Captain, the quantum resonance chamber has completely destabilized. We lost our primary drive 3 cycles ago. And now the backup bio-neural networks are failing cascade style." The Zephyrians had been conducting routine stellar cartography in what they believed to be empty space when their ship's exotic matter containment system suffered a catastrophic failure. Now, stranded light years from the nearest inhabited system, they faced a slow death as their ship's living components began to shut down one by one. "Sir!" Communications specialist Rin spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been monitoring all known emergency frequencies. The Galactic Cooperative Council protocols require us to broadcast our distress signal on the Universal Emergency Band." Thylex nodded grimly. The Galactic Cooperative was a loose alliance of 47 different species, all committed to mutual aid and peaceful coexistence. Every member species monitored the emergency frequencies, ready to assist fellow travelers in distress. It was a system that had worked flawlessly for over 2,000 years. "Do it," he ordered. "Broadcast on all emergency channels. Include our position, ship registry, and current status." What none of them realized was that their stellar cartography mission had taken them far beyond the traditional boundaries of galactic cooperative space. The region they'd been mapping was considered a dead zone, empty systems with no intelligent life, no resources worth exploiting, and certainly no one listening to emergency frequencies. Except they were wrong. 3 days into their ordeal, as the crew grew weaker and the ship's bioluminescence dimmed to barely perceptible glows, something changed. Long-range sensors, running on the last reserves of power, detected an anomaly in the fabric of space itself. "Captain," sensor operator Keth called out, his voice filled with confusion rather than hope, "I'm reading massive spatial distortions approximately 2 light hours from our position. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Thylex struggled to his feet, his movements sluggish from the failing life support systems. "Elaborate, Keth. Is it natural phenomena?" "Negative, sir. The distortions are too organized, too purposeful. It's almost as if space itself is being folded. But the energy requirements for such manipulation would be astronomical. No known species possesses technology capable of—" Keth's words died in his throat as his sensors registered something that shouldn't exist. A massive object was materializing from what appeared to be a tear in space-time itself. The energy readings were off every scale their instruments could measure. "By the sacred currents," Vex breathed, abandoning his engineering station to stare at the main display. "What is that thing?" On the screen before them, a ship unlike anything in the galactic database slowly emerged from its impossible journey through folded space. It was enormous, easily 50 times the size of their research vessel, and built with a design philosophy that seemed to prioritize function over the flowing organic aesthetics favored by cooperative species. The ship's hull was angular, aggressive, covered in what appeared to be armor plating thick enough to stop asteroid impacts. Weapon emplacements bristled from every surface, some so large they could punch holes through small moons. Energy readings suggested power generation capabilities that exceeded the total output of some star systems. But most disturbing of all were the markings on the hull. While the Galactic Cooperative had cataloged thousands of species and their various writing systems, these symbols were completely unknown. Whoever built this ship came from outside their understanding of the galaxy. "Sir," Rin's voice trembled as she monitored communications. "They're hailing us. The signal is coming through on military encryption channels we don't recognize, but our translation matrices are working on it." "Put it through," Thylex ordered, though every instinct told him this might be their last mistake. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a face that sent ice through Zephyrian veins. The being looking back at them was clearly from a predator species. Forward-facing eyes designed for tracking prey, a rigid skeletal structure that spoke of evolution in high gravity, and most unnerving of all, exposed bone-white teeth in what their translator identified as a smile. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force vessel Retribution," the creature said, its voice carrying an odd mixture of authority and concern. "We received your distress signal and have come to render assistance. Please state the nature of your emergency." The bridge fell silent. Thylex's mind raced as he processed the implications. These Terrans had received their distress signal from an impossible distance and had somehow traveled faster than light in ways that defied known physics. More troubling still was the realization that they'd been monitoring galactic cooperative emergency frequencies from outside cooperative space. "I am Captain Thylex of the Zephyrian research vessel Gentle Current," he finally managed to respond. "We suffered a catastrophic drive failure and are stranded. Our life support systems are failing. But I must ask, who are you? Your species is unknown to the Galactic Cooperative Database." The human's expression shifted slightly, and Thylex noticed other figures moving in the background of the transmission. All appeared to be from the same predator species, moving with coordinated precision that suggested military training. "We're human," Admiral Chen replied simply. "And you're a long way from home, Captain. Our long-range sensors indicate you're several hundred light-years outside what you call cooperative space. This is what we consider the edge of the frontier." "Frontier?" Vex spoke up before Thylex could stop him. "You mean there are inhabited systems out here? How is that possible? Our surveys showed this region was empty." Something that might have been amusement flickered across the human's features. "Your surveys were correct from a certain point of view. This region was empty until we got here. Humans have a tendency to make homes in places other species consider uninhabitable." The implications struck Thylex like a physical blow. These humans weren't just from outside cooperative space. They were expansionist. They deliberately moved into regions considered too dangerous or resource-poor for civilized settlement. What kind of species chose to live in the galactic wasteland? "We're preparing to take your vessel in tow," Admiral Chen continued, apparently oblivious to the Zephyrians' growing unease. "Our medical bay is equipped to handle a wide variety of physiologies, and our engineers should be able to stabilize your ship's systems. You'll be safe aboard the Retribution." Before Thylex could respond, Keth's sensors registered new contacts. Dozens of smaller ships were emerging from the human vessel's launch bays, sleek, predatory craft that moved through space with deadly grace. But rather than taking attack positions, they were forming an escort pattern around the dying Zephyrian ship. "Admiral Chen," Thylex said carefully, "while we appreciate your offer of assistance, I must inform you that the Galactic Cooperative Council will need to be notified of first contact with your species. This is unprecedented." The human's smile returned, though Thylex was beginning to suspect it wasn't entirely friendly. "Of course, Captain. We'd be very interested in meeting representatives of this galactic cooperative. It's been quite some time since we've encountered neighbors." As the massive human warship moved closer, its tractor beams reaching out to gently but irresistibly grasp the gentle current. Thylex couldn't shake the feeling that his simple distress call had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The last thing he saw before the human ship's bulk blocked out the stars was a line of text scrolling across his translator. "Welcome to human space. Please remain calm." Somehow, that final message was the most terrifying thing of all. The docking process aboard the human vessel was unlike anything Captain Thylex had experienced in his 40 years of space travel. Instead of the gentle, organic integration systems used throughout cooperative space, the humans employed massive mechanical clamps that seized the gentle current with precise, irresistible force. The Zephyrian ship was drawn into a cavernous hangar bay that could have housed a dozen vessels their size. As the bay doors sealed behind them with a thunderous clang that resonated through their hull, Thylex watched through the viewports as human personnel swarmed around their ship. They moved with mechanical efficiency, wearing bulky suits of armor that made them appear even more imposing than they already were. "Sir," Rin reported from her communications station, "they're requesting permission to board. Admiral Chen says their medical team needs to assess our condition immediately." Thylex exchanged glances with his crew. Standard cooperative protocol would involve lengthy diplomatic exchanges, formal introductions, and careful establishment of mutual understanding before any physical contact. The humans apparently preferred a more direct approach. "Grant permission," he decided, "but maintain recording systems. If we're making first contact with an unknown species, the Council will need complete records." The airlock cycled with mechanical precision, and Thylex got his first close look at humanity in person. Admiral Chen stepped through first, followed by what appeared to be medical personnel and guards. Even without their armor, the humans were impressive, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the casual confidence of apex predators who had never known fear. But what struck Thylex most was their obvious concern. Despite their intimidating appearance, the humans immediately began scanning the Zephyrians with medical devices, speaking in urgent tones about oxygen levels, atmospheric composition, and biological compatibility. "Captain Thylex," Admiral Chen said, extending her hand in what their translator identified as a greeting gesture. "I'm glad we reached you in time. Dr. Martinez here says your crew is suffering from severe hypoxia and malnutrition. We need to get you to our medical bay immediately." The human doctor, a smaller, darker-skinned member of their species, was already running some kind of scanner over Vex, who had collapsed shortly after the boarding. "Captain, your engineer is in critical condition. His biosigns indicate cascade organ failure. We need to move now." Thylex found himself swept along by human urgency. Within minutes, his entire crew was being transported through corridors that defied every assumption about starship design. Where cooperative vessels emphasized harmony and flowing spaces, the human ship was all sharp angles and functional efficiency. Everything was built to withstand combat damage, from reinforced bulkheads to emergency systems that seemed designed for catastrophic failure scenarios. The medical bay was a revelation. Equipment that Thylex couldn't begin to understand hummed with barely contained power, while holographic displays showed real-time biological analysis of his crew. Dr. Martinez worked with practiced ease, somehow adapting alien medical technology to treat Zephyrian physiology. "This is remarkable," the doctor muttered as he worked on Vex. "Your people's biochemistry is silicon-based rather than carbon, but the principles are similar enough. We can work with this." "How?" Thylex asked, amazed that they could help at all. "Our species has never encountered each other. How can your medical systems adapt so quickly?" Admiral Chen, who had been observing the treatment, smiled that unsettling human expression. "Dr. Martinez has treated 47 different alien physiologies in the past 5 years. Humans have a tendency to run into species that need medical attention." The implications of that statement sent another chill through Thylex. How many species had the humans encountered? And why did so many of them apparently need medical assistance? As his crew stabilized under human care, Thylex was given a tour of the ship that fundamentally challenged his understanding of galactic civilization. The Retribution wasn't just a warship, it was a mobile city, capable of supporting a population of 30,000 for extended periods without resupply. Manufacturing bays could construct anything from spare parts to entirely new vessels. Hydroponic gardens provided fresh food, while recycling systems achieved efficiency levels that bordered on the impossible. This vessel is over 3 kilometers long, his guide, Commander Jackson, explained, as they walked through what appeared to be a shopping district complete with restaurants and entertainment facilities. She's designed for long-range exploration and frontier defense. We spend years at a time out here, making contact with new species, establishing trade routes, dealing with pirates and hostile forces. Pirates? Thylex asked. Hostile forces? But space is so vast. How do you encounter such problems? Commander Jackson's laugh was not entirely pleasant. Captain, you really are from the peaceful side of the galaxy, aren't you? Out here on the frontier, it's a different story. Resource conflicts, territorial disputes, species that view others as prey rather than neighbors. The galaxy's a big, dangerous place once you get away from your cooperative's protection. They passed through training areas where humans practiced combat techniques that seemed to assume fighting would occur in zero gravity, underwater, in toxic atmospheres, and against opponents with radically different physiologies. The weapons ranges showcased technology that could apparently function in any environment, from the vacuum of space to the crushing depths of gas giant atmospheres. But what truly amazed Thylex was the diversity of the human crew itself. While they were all obviously the same species, they displayed incredible variation in size, coloration, and physical characteristics. More importantly, they seemed to have adapted themselves to different environments. Some appeared modified for high radiation environments, others for extreme gravity or toxic atmospheres. Your species practices genetic modification? Thylex asked carefully, not wanting to offend if this was a sensitive topic. Some of us do, Commander Jackson replied easily. Humans adapt. It's what we do. When we find a world with conditions that would kill baseline humans, we change ourselves to match rather than changing the world to suit us, usually faster and more efficient that way. The tour continued through engineering sections that defied comprehension. The humans had somehow managed to integrate technologies that seemed to come from dozens of different species, creating hybrid systems that performed better than any of the individual components. Power cores that combined matter-antimatter annihilation with zero-point energy extraction. Faster-than-light drives that folded space while simultaneously creating artificial wormholes. How is this possible? Thylex finally asked, overwhelmed by the technological display. These systems represent advances that should take millennia to develop. Commander Jackson's expression grew serious. Captain, I think you need to understand something about humans. We don't develop technology gradually like most species. We steal it, reverse engineer it, improve it, and integrate it with everything else we've learned. Every species we encounter teaches us something new. We've been doing this for over 200 years. 200 years? Thylex repeated weakly. How many species have you encountered? Lost count somewhere around 300, Jackson replied casually. Though to be fair, some of them didn't survive the encounter. Not because of us, he added quickly, seeing Thylex's expression, but because we usually meet species in crisis situations. Pirates, natural disasters, aggressive neighbors. Humans have a reputation for showing up when things go wrong. They arrived at the ship's command center, a vast space filled with holographic displays showing star charts that extended far beyond anything in cooperative databases. Thylex could see trade routes, conflict zones, exploration targets, and what appeared to be detailed intelligence on hundreds of different species and governments. This is our operational area, Admiral Chen explained, joining them at the central display. Roughly 15,000 light-years across, containing approximately 4,700 star systems under human influence or protection. We've established colonies, trading posts, research stations, and defense platforms throughout the region. Thylex stared at the display in shock. The Galactic Cooperative, representing 47 species and 2,000 years of development, controlled roughly 3,000 systems. These humans, operating alone, had apparently claimed an empire half again as large in just 2 centuries. "But how do you govern such an expanse?" he asked. "The logistics alone should be impossible." "We don't govern it in the traditional sense," Admiral Chen replied. "Humans prefer autonomy. Each colony, each station, each fleet operates independently. We cooperate when necessary, compete when beneficial, and back each other up when threatened. It's controlled chaos, but it works for us." As if to demonstrate the point, alerts began sounding throughout the command center. Admiral Chen moved to a tactical display where red indicators were appearing near the edge of the star chart. "Admiral," a junior officer reported, "long-range sensors are detecting a Krell raiding fleet, approximately 20 vessels, moving toward the Centauri trade route. Estimated time to intercept merchant shipping, 14 hours. "The Krell?" Thylex asked. "I'm not familiar with that species." Admiral Chen's expression hardened in a way that made Thylex glad he was on her side. "Parasitic species. They consume other sapient beings for sustenance and view the galaxy as their hunting ground. They've been a problem for about 50 years now." Without hesitation, she began issuing orders. "Alert the 5th Fleet. I want intercept courses plotted for all available vessels. Contact Colonial Command and have them issue warnings to all merchant traffic in the area, and prep the Retribution for combat operations." Thylex watched in amazement as the massive warship transformed around them. Blast shields slid into place over viewports, weapon systems came online with barely contained power, and the crew moved with practiced efficiency to battle stations. Within minutes, the ship was ready for combat operations that could apparently level cities. "Admiral," he said carefully, "surely you're not planning to engage 20 enemy vessels with a single ship." Admiral Chen's smile was predatory. "Captain, you're about to learn something important about humans. We don't fight fair, we don't fight alone, and we definitely don't let pirates operate in our space." The tactical display updated, showing dozens of new contacts appearing throughout the region. Human ships were emerging from asteroid belts, planetary orbits, and what appeared to be empty space itself. Within an hour, nearly 100 vessels were converging on the Krell fleet's position. "You see, Captain," Admiral Chen continued, "humans don't just build warships. We build networks. Every merchant vessel carries sensors and communications equipment. Every colony has defense platforms. Every asteroid belt has sensor stations. When something threatens human space, everything in the region responds." As Thylex watched the inevitable destruction of the Krell raiders unfold on the tactical displays, he began to understand the true scope of what his distress call had uncovered. The humans weren't just another spacefaring species. They were an empire in all but name, built on principles of adaptation, cooperation, and overwhelming response to threats. More importantly, they were an empire that the Galactic Cooperative had never detected, operating just beyond the edges of explored space. And now, thanks to a simple rescue operation, first contact had been made. The galaxy, Thylex realized, was about to become a much more interesting place. 3 weeks after the rescue, Captain Thylex found himself standing in the Grand Council chamber on Harmonious Station, the political heart of the Galactic Cooperative. Around him, representatives from 47 different species were engaged in what could only be described as controlled panic. The revelation that an entire human empire existed beyond their borders had sent shock waves through every government in cooperative space. "The data you've brought us is troubling, Captain Thylex," Speaker Vorthak said, his insectoid form clicking with agitation. These humans appear to represent a threat unlike anything we've encountered in our history. Thylax struggled to maintain diplomatic composure. During his weeks aboard the Retribution, he'd grown to respect the humans despite their intimidating nature. They were crude by cooperative standards, certainly, but they were also incredibly effective and surprisingly honorable. With respect, Speaker, I'm not certain threat is the appropriate term. The humans saved my crew's lives when they were under no obligation to do so. They provided medical care, repaired our ship, and escorted us safely back to cooperative space. After demonstrating military capabilities that exceed our own by several orders of magnitude, Security Council Director Zenth interjected, his crystalline form resonating with worry. Captain, their single vessel carried more firepower than our entire home fleet, and you report they have hundreds of such ships. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Representatives huddled in species-specific groups, their various forms of body language all expressing the same emotion: fear. The Galactic Cooperative had existed for 2 millennia precisely because no single species possessed overwhelming military superiority. The careful balance of power had ensured peace, prosperity, and gradual technological advancement for all members. The humans threatened to upset that balance entirely. Perhaps, suggested Science Council Representative Thin, her tentacles weaving complex patterns of thought, we should focus on the opportunity rather than the threat. These humans have clearly mastered technologies we've only theorized about. Imagine what we could learn through peaceful cooperation. Peaceful cooperation with apex predators who've apparently conquered 15,000 star systems in 2 centuries? Director Zenth's crystalline structure flared with indignation. The mathematical progression is clear. At their current rate of expansion, they'll reach cooperative core worlds within 50 years. Before Thylax could respond, alerts began sounding throughout the chamber. Emergency broadcasts from the outer systems were reporting massive spatial distortions, the same phenomenon that had preceded the human ship's arrival to rescue his crew. Speaker Vorthak, Communications Director Lin announced, her avian features ruffled with stress. We're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Chen of the human vessel, Retribution. She's requesting permission to address the Council directly. The chamber fell silent. No non-cooperative species had ever addressed the Grand Council. The implications were staggering. It would represent a fundamental change in 2,000 years of diplomatic protocol. Put her through, Speaker Vorthak decided after a moment of intense consideration. The central holographic display activated, showing Admiral Chen standing on the bridge of her massive warship. Behind her, Thylax could see other humans working at stations that displayed tactical information covering vast regions of space. The message was clear. This was not a social call. Honored members of the Galactic Cooperative Council. Admiral Chen began, her tone respectful but confident. I am Sarah Chen, representing the Terran Federation and its affiliated colonies. We regret that our first contact occurred under emergency circumstances, but we're grateful for the opportunity to address your assembly. Admiral Chen, Speaker Vorthak responded carefully. While we appreciate the safe return of Captain Thylax and his crew, your presence in our space raises significant concerns. Your technological capabilities and territorial expansion suggest potential conflicts of interest. Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral, but Thylax noticed the subtle tension in her posture. I understand your concerns, Speaker Vorthak. However, I believe there are more pressing issues that require our immediate attention. 3 hours ago, our long-range sensor networks detected massive fleet movements in the Perseus Arm. The Devourers have begun their next expansion wave. The name sent ice through every being in the chamber. The Devourers were a nightmare species from beyond the galactic rim, silicon-based entities that consumed entire planets to fuel their reproduction. They had appeared 50 years ago, destroying 12 civilizations before seemingly vanishing back into dark space. The Galactic Cooperative's greatest fear was their return. "That's impossible," Director Zenth protested. "Our sensor networks show no indication of devourer activity. If they had returned, we would know." "Your sensor networks cover cooperative space," Admiral Chen replied evenly. "The devourers are approaching from the frontier region, approximately 2,000 light-years beyond your current detection range. Our deep space monitoring stations have been tracking their approach for 6 months." The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions in dozens of different languages, while translators struggled to keep up. The implications were staggering. Not only had the humans been monitoring galactic threats that the cooperative knew nothing about, but they'd apparently been preparing for conflicts that would affect everyone. "Silence," Speaker Vorthak commanded, his natural authority cutting through the noise. "Admiral Chen, what exactly are you proposing?" "The Devourer fleet consists of approximately 3,000 vessels, including 12 world-ship-class planet killers," Chen continued, overlaying tactical data on the holographic display. "They're moving toward inhabited space along 3 separate vectors, apparently coordinating with sleeper agents they left behind during their last incursion. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach the outer cooperative colonies in 18 months. The tactical display showed red indicators moving like a plague across the star chart. Even worse, the data revealed that several systems thought to be empty apparently contained hidden devourer bases, positioned to strike at cooperative worlds from within their own territory. "Our intelligence suggests they've been preparing this assault for decades," Admiral Chen continued. "The good news is that humanity has been preparing for their return as well. We've developed weapons specifically designed to counter their technology, and our fleet positioning gives us the ability to intercept their advance forces before they reach populated systems." "What do you want from us?" Director Zenth asked bluntly, though his crystalline form had stopped flaring with agitation and was now pulsing with something that might have been hope. "Partnership," Admiral Chen replied simply. "Humanity has the military capability to fight the Devourers effectively, but we lack the industrial capacity to support a sustained campaign across multiple sectors. The Galactic Cooperative has the most advanced manufacturing infrastructure in known space, but your military doctrine isn't designed for this level of threat." She paused, letting the implications sink in before continuing. "Separately, we both face extinction. Together, we might actually have a chance." Thylex watched as the council members processed this revelation. The humans weren't conquering empires. They were the galaxy's unofficial defense force, operating in the dangerous frontier regions where civilized species feared to go. Their rapid expansion, their advanced weapons, their seemingly aggressive nature, all of it made sense when viewed as preparation for threats like the Devourers. "What kind of partnership are you suggesting?" Speaker Vorthak asked carefully. "Technology exchange," Admiral Chen replied immediately. "Human defensive capabilities combined with cooperative industrial capacity. Joint military commands for coordinated operations. Intelligence sharing across both our sensor networks. And most importantly, unified response protocols for galactic-scale threats." She gestured, and the tactical display shifted to show potential defensive formations that combined human mobile fleets with cooperative fixed fortifications. The synergy was immediately obvious. Human ships could engage and delay enemy forces, while cooperative manufacturing centers produced the resources needed for extended campaigns. "There's one more thing," Admiral Chen added, and her expression grew serious. "The Devourers aren't the only threat we're facing. Our deep space exploration has identified at least 6 other hostile species beyond the galactic rim, all showing signs of aggressive expansion toward inhabited space. The age of peaceful coexistence is ending, whether we want it to or not." The chamber fell silent as representatives absorbed this information. For 2,000 years, the Galactic Cooperative had existed in relative peace. Protected by distance from external threats and careful diplomacy from internal conflicts. The revelation that multiple extinction-level threats were approaching shattered every assumption about galactic security. "We need time to consider your proposals," Speaker Vorthak finally said. "The Council must debate—" "Speaker," Admiral Chen interrupted gently. "With respect, the Devourer advance forces will reach the Kepler sector in 48 hours. We don't have time for extended debate. I need to know if the Cooperative will stand with humanity against this threat, or if we'll be fighting alone." The ultimatum was politely delivered, but unmistakable. The humans were prepared to fight the galaxy's battles with or without cooperative support, but the outcome would be very different depending on the choice made in this chamber. Speaker Vorthak exchanged glances with his fellow council members, their various forms of nonverbal communication flashing through rapid negotiations that had taken decades to learn but now required only seconds to execute. "Admiral Chen," he finally announced, "the Galactic Cooperative Council hereby authorizes immediate emergency protocols. We will coordinate with human forces to address the Devourer threat. Full partnership negotiations will begin once the immediate crisis is resolved." Admiral Chen's smile was genuinely relieved. "Thank you, Speaker. You won't regret this decision. Commander Jackson will coordinate with your military liaisons to establish joint operations protocols. And Speaker, welcome to the real galaxy. It's dangerous out here, but you'll find that having humans as neighbors has certain advantages." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Through the great windows, representatives could see human ships taking position around Harmonia Station, not as conquerors or invaders, but as protectors preparing for a war that most of the galaxy didn't even know was coming. Captain Thylax smiled for the first time since his rescue. His accidental distress call hadn't just brought help for his stranded crew, it had revealed that the galaxy was already protected by creatures whose greatest pleasure seemed to be standing between civilization and the things that wanted to destroy it. Sometimes, he reflected, it paid to send an SOS to Deathworlders. They might be terrifying neighbors, but they were absolutely the neighbors you wanted when something even more terrifying came calling. The galaxy had just become a much safer place, even if most of its inhabitants didn't realize it yet.